There is a difference between weekly closing price and average closing price of weekdays. So in this video, we are going to understand how to find out both using Google Sheet. So let's get started. First, let me explain you this Google Sheet. On the left hand side here in this purple color, it is weekly closing price, and on right hand side in blue color, that is average closing price of weekdays. So first we understand what's the difference. Weekly closing price indicates closing price of the last day of a week. For example, if we consider recent, it's a 20th March 2026. So if we see that day, it is Friday. So during this particular week, what was closing price? So generally it will be the closing price of the last day. Whereas if we consider average closing price of weekdays, we consider closing price of all the days of a week, and then we find out average of those days. So as an example, here we can see from date 5th of January to 9th of January, we find out closing price of that day, and here we calculate its average. Once we find out average closing price of weekdays, we can compare it with weekly closing price and we can do some analysis. So first we understand how to find out weekly closing price. So formula is here. We use this Google Finance function. We find out price. This is my ticker. Then we want to find out price, and the start date is, we are considering 1st January 2026, and the last date is today's date, that is end date, and we are interested in getting weekly price. So this formula will give us weekly closing price here. Now, if you want to find out average closing price of weekdays, we need to consider closing price of all the days. So formula for that is here. Here we don't provide that interval, last parameter, which we provided here. So here it will find out closing price of all the days. Now the next step is that we find out that this particular day is falling on which week number. So for example, 1st January is falling on first week, 2nd January is falling on first week. In the same way, we find out for each date what is the week number. So formula is this, it is week number. We want to find out week number for date which is present in this G4 cell, and second parameter is that which day we want to consider as a starting day. So here you can see example, they have given Sunday as 1. So we want to consider Monday as starting day of a week. So we pass here 2. So once we give this, it will give us week number. Now to find out average closing price of weekdays, formula is here. So basically logic is like this. We use AVERAGEIF function so that we can provide criteria to which it should be matched, and we can specify the range on which average is to be calculated. So let's understand that formula. So average if we provide criteria range. How we are going to calculate average closing price of weekdays? So basically we want that we should find out average of these two prices for first week, then average of these 5 values for the second week, and so on. So to do that we use this average if. So we write here first as criteria range. So that is my I4 from starting from this I4 till complete column I, that is my criteria range. And in this range, in this criteria range, what criteria I want to check? So my criteria is here, that should be equal to the week number, current week number. So that current week number I put in I4. So here I'm writing that dynamically is equal to, then I use ampersand, then week number of that G4. So basically I am finding out matching columns using this. So that will give me that for whichever criteria this one is matching, then what I should do, that is my average range criteria. I want to calculate average of the values which are present in column H. So I write that as H4 to H. So basically this formula will perform the average of closing prices of weekdays for a particular week. So once you do that, then simply we copy paste that formula for all the rows like this, and we'll get average closing price of weekdays of a particular week. Now for comparison, now we bring average closing price of weekdays from here to here so that we can do comparison. So let's see that formula. So formula is very simple. We just perform VLOOKUP. So for this date, we find out that what is the average closing price of weekdays on this side. So we perform that VLOOKUP. Formula is we perform lookup for this value C4 into range, that is whole range from G4 to J, complete range. So in that range, if that is matching, we want to pick up value that is present in column number 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth column we want to pick up the value. So we write that here 4. And finally, whether my data is sorted. So I say that it is not sorted. So we need to provide there false, so that it's going to do complete search. And we hit that formula, we'll get value that is present here. Now once we have this, we can do comparison. If we consider here 16th January, weekly closing price is 689, whereas average closing price of weekdays is 1625. So we can do that there is a drastic change, or there is a drastic difference, and based on this we can do some analysis. So for this particular scenario, if we see on 16th January what happened. So here you can see that on 16th January it is price was 1689, whereas on the previous day it was 1599. So there is a difference of around 100 rupees. So here we can see, if we compare these two, we can get some insight that something happened during this week. So by having this weekly closing price and average closing price of weekdays, we can do some stock analysis. Let me know in the comment section how this video was useful to you. Thanks for watching and happy learning. We'll see you in the next video.